Hey there, I'm Jake Hart, your host, and I'm here with Zara Moon.
Hello, everyone.
We've got a really fascinating deep dive today, inspired by Gregg Braden's work.
Rewriting the reality code with ancient wisdom.
Yeah, and Braden, he's got this unique perspective, right? He's got this background in science, aerospace engineering,
Right.
but then he spends years studying ancient texts, exploring these spiritual traditions all over the world. It's a pretty wild combination.
It is, and what I find really compelling is that he doesn't keep these worlds separate. He's really looking for the connections, the places where ancient wisdom and modern science kind of intersect. And it's like he's asking, what if these ancient cultures knew something that we've forgotten?
Right.
Something that can help us today with the challenges that we're facing.
Exactly. So let's dive right into that idea.
Mhm.
Braden, he talks a lot about this divine matrix.
Yes.
This field of energy that connects everything in the universe. What exactly is he talking about here, and what evidence does he present to support this concept?
So he describes the divine matrix as this field of pure potentiality
Okay.
and containing the blueprint for everything that exists and everything that could exist.
Wow.
And you can kind of think of it like this cosmic library that's filled with just infinite possibilities.
Okay.
Now, to support this idea, he draws on a lot of sources. We have ancient texts, modern physics,
Yeah.
and even anecdotal stories of, these seemingly miraculous events.
Give me an example. What kind of story are we talking about here?
Okay, so one that he highlights is this story of a World War II fighter pilot, and his plane was badly damaged.
Oh, wow.
And as he was coming in for a landing, he realized that his landing gear was completely gone.
Oh, no.
So it was a terrifying situation because crash landing was almost certain death.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting. The pilot's friend, knowing that, the situation was hopeless, he started sketching a picture of the plane, but with, these big cartoonish tires.
Okay.
And somehow the plane landed safely on those imaginary tires. Yeah. And as soon as they acknowledged that, it had happened, the tires vanished and the plane crashed.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I can see why it would grab your attention.
Right?
But is that really the kind of evidence we need to support this idea of a divine matrix, or is there something more concrete?
So it's definitely a powerful anecdote, and Braden uses it to illustrate this potential power of belief.
Okay.
But he also points to scientific experiments, particularly in the realm of quantum physics,
Yeah.
that hint at this interconnectedness of everything and the potential for consciousness to influence matter.
Let's talk about some of those experiments.
Yeah.
What kind of research is Braden drawing on?
So one of the most famous experiments that he cites is the double slit experiment,
Okay.
which has really baffled physicists for over a century.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is that they were shooting electrons at a target,
Okay.
and they had to pass through this barrier that had either one or two slits in it.
Okay.
Now, when they observed which slit the electron went through, the electrons acted like particles, going through one slit or the other, as you might expect.
Okay.
But when they didn't observe, the electrons behaved like waves going through both slits at the same time and creating this interference pattern on the target.
So they acted differently depending on if they were being observed.
Exactly.
What does that mean for us if observing something changes how it behaves?
It really suggests that consciousness, the act of observation, might actually play a role in shaping reality, which is a pretty mind-blowing concept.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's like our awareness somehow influences the behavior of these subatomic particles.
So we've got these intriguing anecdotes and some pretty mind-bending physics experiments.
Mm-hmm.
How does Braden connect all of this to our everyday lives?
Okay.
How does this divine matrix actually work in practice?
So he uses the analogy of a giant consciousness computer
Okay.
to explain how it all fits together. So the hardware of this computer is the physical world that we experience, the trees, the stars, our body. The operating system is consciousness itself, this underlying field of awareness that connects everything.
Right.
And the programs running on this computer are our beliefs and feelings.
So if our beliefs and feelings are the programs, are you saying we can actually rewrite those programs, reprogram our reality, so to speak?
That's exactly what Braden is suggesting. He believes that our beliefs and emotions interact with this divine matrix, acting as a kind of code that influences the reality we experience.
That's a bold claim. But it does make you wonder, what if by changing our beliefs and our emotional patterns, we could actually change our lives and maybe even the world around us?
Exactly.
That's a powerful idea, but also a daunting one. I mean, if our beliefs are that influential,
All right.
it puts a lot of responsibility on us, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It suggests that we're not just passive observers in this reality, but active participants, co-creators.
So before we get into the how-to of rewriting our reality code, I think it's important to explore another question that Braden raises, which is the mystery of why we die. That's a question I think a lot of us have pondered. Our bodies are capable of such incredible healing. So why do we eventually succumb to disease and aging?
So Braden suggests that hurt. And I'm not just talking about physical pain,
Right.
but the accumulated weight of unresolved emotional baggage, fear, frustration, anxiety, disappointment,
Yeah.
might actually play a significant role in our physical decline.
So it's not just that our bodies wear out, but that our hearts, both literally and metaphorically, can't sustain the burden of unresolved negativity forever.
Right.
It's almost like we become weighed down by it.
That's the idea. And he points to ancient traditions like the Essenes,
Okay.
who believe that the first 100 years of life are the toughest because we spend that time processing unresolved hurt.
Really?
And they believe that if we can learn to transcend this hurt, our lifespan could potentially be much longer.
Wow, that's a pretty radical idea, and it makes me think about all the research coming out about the regenerative capacity of our organs. Could it be that longevity is within our reach if we can master the emotional and spiritual aspects of healing?
Yeah.
What does Braden have to say about that?
That's what we'll delve into in part 2 of this deep dive.
Hey, are you enjoying this podcast so far? If you are, would you kindly subscribe, like, and share our channel? We would appreciate your support to help us grow and thrive so that we may broadcast more extraordinary stories. Thank you for listening to Mystic Podcast Cruise. And now, back to our program.
Braden believes that ancient cultures, they held keys to understanding and applying this power of belief he draws on his experiences in Tibetan monasteries.
So how do we rewrite this code, so to speak?
Yeah.
What are some of those ancient keys that we've lost touch with? What did he learn in those monasteries that we can apply to our own lives?
One key concept is the power of feeling as if the outcome that you desire has already happened. He talks about this amazing mural that he saw in a Tibetan monastery.
Oh, wow. What was so special about this mural?
It depicted Buddha teaching people of all races, and every single person was radiating this aura of light, just like Buddha and the monks explained that this represented the idea that we all possess the same potential for enlightenment, for tapping into that creative power within us.
So it's not just about knowing we have this power, but about feeling it, embodying it as our current reality.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's about aligning our entire being, our thoughts, feelings, and actions with the reality we want to experience. And Braden brings up an interesting point about how ancient wisdom has been misinterpreted or even edited over time.
Okay.
For example, we all know the saying, ask and you shall receive, right?
Yeah, it's from the Bible, isn't it? I've always found that to be a powerful message, but I have to admit I haven't always seen it work out that way in my own life.
Well, Braden points out that some key parts of that verse were edited out centuries ago. The original Aramaic text, which was the language Jesus spoke, included instructions to ask without hidden motive and be enveloped by what you desire.
So it's not just about asking for what we want, but about the quality of our asking. We need to be clear about our intentions and fully embrace the feeling of already having what we desire without any attachment to the outcome.
Precisely, and that's something that Neville Goddard, a 20th century mystic, also emphasized. He taught that the key to manifestation is feeling as if the outcome has already happened. It's about shifting our consciousness to the state of the wish fulfilled. That makes sense. If we're constantly worrying about whether or not we'll get what we want, we're actually reinforcing that feeling of lack of not having it.
Right, and there's even scientific evidence that supports this idea. Braden discusses what's called the Maharishi effect, which refers to studies that have shown a decrease in violence and crime when large groups of people focused on feelings of peace.
Wait, seriously, they were able to influence crime rates just by meditating on peace. How does that even work?
It suggests that our collective consciousness, our shared beliefs and emotions can have a tangible impact on the world around us. It's as if when enough people focus their energy on a particular outcome, it creates this ripple effect that influences the whole system.
I've heard about those studies. They're pretty fascinating. But could there be other explanations for that, or is this really evidence of the power of collective intention? Braden also tells this wild story about Milarepa, a Tibetan yogi who lived in a cave 800 years ago. What was that about?
Milarepa was known for his incredible feats of spiritual mastery. He could allegedly withstand extreme temperatures, go without food for extended periods, and even push his hand through solid rock.
Push his hand through rock. That sounds impossible. Are we talking about some kind of metaphor here? Or did he literally defy the laws of physics?
It does sound like something out of a comic book, right? But Braden presents this as an example of someone who transcended the perceived limits of physical reality through the power of belief. And he asks, was it a miracle or was it technology? Could this be an example of a mastered human ability that we've simply forgotten?
I've got to admit that does make you wonder about the true potential of human consciousness.
Mhm.
I mean, if someone like Milrepa could do that, what does that mean for the rest of us? Are those kinds of abilities dormant within all of us, just waiting to be unlocked?
That's a fascinating question, and it leads us to another intriguing question that Braden explores. Could our reality actually be a sophisticated virtual reality, a simulation?
Hold on, are we talking about living in the Matrix here? I've seen that movie. It's pretty mind-bending. But are there serious people who actually believe this?
It does sound like science fiction, I know, but Braden points out that many ancient cultures, from Aboriginal Australians to Native Americans, have traditions that view this world as a temporary dream or illusion. Even some Christian interpretations see this physical realm as a stepping stone to a higher reality.
So if we're in a simulation, what would be the purpose? Why would we create this experience for ourselves?
Braden suggests that the purpose of a simulation is to master something unknown in a safe environment, like a flight simulator prepares pilots for real-life situations. Perhaps this reality is designed to help us master the power of belief, of creation, before we need those skills in a different realm.
So are you saying we're in some cosmic training program, learning the language of the heart, the power to manifest our reality before we graduate to something else? That's a pretty wild thought.
It is wild, but if you think about it, it explains a lot. It explains why we face challenges, why we experience pain and suffering. It's all part of the learning process.
But how would we even know if we were in a simulation? Would there be any clues, any glitches in the matrix, so to speak?
Well, Braden lays out some characteristics of a virtual reality, for example. Virtual realities have a beginning and an end. There are rules that govern how things work within that reality, and there's often communication with something outside of the simulation, like a programmer or a higher intelligence, and most importantly, there are choice points where the user can make decisions that change the course of events.
Okay, I can see how that applies to our reality. Our universe had a beginning with the Big Bang. It operates under the laws of physics, and many people believe in a higher power or spiritual guidance, and we're constantly making choices that shape our lives and the world around us. But are there any scientists who actually support this simulation theory? It still seems pretty out there.
Actually, there are. Nick Bostrom, a philosopher at Oxford, he wrote a paper using complex mathematical models to argue that there's a high probability that we're living in a computer simulation. And Seth Lloyd, an MIT professor, has proposed that the universe itself is a giant quantum computer.
Whoa, a quantum computer, that's a whole other level of complexity.
Right.
So if we are in a simulation, does that mean our lives are predetermined? Do we even have free will? What does Braden have to say about that?
This is where it gets really interesting and potentially empowering. Braden suggests that the key to understanding our role in this reality, whether it's a simulation or not, lies in our beliefs. He points out that beliefs are binary. We either believe something or we don't.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. It's a yes or no, on or off kind of
Yeah.
thing. But how does that tie into the idea of a simulated reality?
Braden proposes that this binary nature of belief translates to creation or non-creation of atoms in the physical universe. He suggests that our beliefs quite literally determine what comes into being.
That's a powerful idea.
Yeah.
So if we change our beliefs, we can change our reality. If we're operating on some kind of binary code, how do we crack it? How do we learn to write the code that creates the reality we want?
That's exactly what we'll explore in part 3 of this deep dive.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've
Yeah.
talked about this divine matrix and the power of belief and the mysteries of ancient wisdom, and even the possibility that we're all living in some kind of simulation.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
But how do we actually apply this knowledge to our lives? How do we learn to write the code, so to speak, to create the reality that we want?
Well, this is where Braden's exploration of, ancient wisdom and modern science kind of come together in a really practical way. He suggests that we can learn to consciously interact with this divine matrix, this field of pure potentiality, by tapping into the power of heart-centered feeling.
Okay, so we need to shift from thinking to feeling,
Mhm.
but how do we actually do that? I mean, we're so conditioned to live in our heads, to overthink everything. How do we get out of our heads and into our hearts?
Well, Braden emphasizes practices like meditation, visualization, and gratitude. He believes that these practices can help us to cultivate a deeper connection to our hearts, to that intuitive wisdom that resides within us. It's about quieting the mind and tuning into that subtler language of feeling.
So it's not about trying to force things to happen with our minds, but about aligning our hearts and minds with the outcome that we desire.
Yeah.
It's about feeling the feeling of the wish fulfilled as if it's already happened.
Exactly, and it's about trusting the process, letting go of that need to control every detail. It's about surrendering to the flow of the universe, to that creative power that's always at work.
Yeah.
Braden also talks about the importance of forgiveness, both of ourselves and others.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. Holding on to resentment and anger, it just creates more hurt, more
Yeah.
negativity, which probably blocks us from experiencing our full potential.
Exactly. Forgiveness is essential for clearing the way for healing and transformation. It allows us to release the past and step into this new reality free from the burdens that we've been carrying.
So if we can learn to master these techniques, aligning our hearts and minds with what we want, cultivating these feelings of gratitude and peace and practicing forgiveness, are you saying we can actually create a better reality for ourselves and for the world?
That's the potential that Braden is pointing to. He believes that we're not victims of circumstance, but active creators of our lives and our world.
That's a powerful message of hope, of empowerment. It suggests that we're not limited by the current state of the world, that we have the power within us to shape a new reality. What stands out to you from all of this? What's the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
For me, the most important takeaway is the recognition that our beliefs and emotions have a profound impact on the reality that we experience. If we can shift our beliefs and feelings towards love, compassion, peace, we can contribute to a collective shift towards a more harmonious and fulfilling reality.
That's a beautiful thought. And it's a great reminder that we all have a part to play in creating the world that we want to live in. If you're ready to explore this idea further, we encourage you to check out Gregg Braden's work. He's written several books, and there are lots of videos online that go into these concepts in more depth, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your insights and experiences with us on social media.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Remember the power to rewrite your reality code. It lies within you.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Mystic Podcast Cruise. If you enjoyed today's story, give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who love uncovering life's mysteries. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Your support helps us continue bringing you captivating stories about the unknown, the mystical, and the extraordinary. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep cruising through the mysteries of life with us here on Mystic Podcast Cruise.